I had a reasonable childhood with my family. At weekends we went out in the country, walking, rambling, and I was an only child, so I went with my mom and dad in the country. It was a normal life until the Nazis came along. And then, of course, as early as 1935, the anti-Jewish laws, your parents lost their business. Whether you were a shopkeeper or a lawyer or a doctor, you could only deal with other Jewish people. So your parents lost their income. It was a very rough time. My name is Henry Wuga. I was born in February 1924 in Nuremberg, Germany. The 9th of November 1930, Kristallnacht, is the one day that really changed my life. At the age of 14, I went to work in a hotel, and having 6 months working in a hotel as a sous chef, yes, as an apprentice, learning things, that made me somehow stronger. I've been working in Baden Baden for 6 months, non-stop with a half day off a week, and I felt I wanted to go home and see my parents, which I did do. Fortunately, I came to Nuremberg, but on the bad day, the 8th of November, and on the 9th of November, there happened Kristallnacht, this horrendous affair. Hitler said the Germans rose up against the Jews. Well, it's nonsense. This was a well-prepared pogrom. We knew about all this beforehand because our synagogue in Nuremberg was burned down 2 years previously to Kristallnacht. So that shows you we were afraid of this the whole time. On that night they destroyed all the synagogues, 1,000 synagogues all over Germany, set them alight. They came to every Jewish house, smashed the door in, broke the windows, toppled the furniture, slit open the downies, the place was full of feathers. It was horrendous. And the men were taken away to concentration camp. It was a horrific night, absolutely horrific. We said to ourselves, well, we can't stay here, we have to leave. But where to go and who would take you in? We knew, come on, how can we get out of here? But this just happens in a few hours, and all of a sudden you are left. You are left knowing that you can't stay here, but everything is just fallen in on top of you. It was the most horrendous day I can remember. There was a conference in Lake Geneva, an international conference, and nobody would help the Jews of Germany. When I think at the Wannsee conference in Berlin, the German cabinet sat around a table and decided to order gas and to build a concentration camp, to order ovens, and simply exterminate the Jewish people. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And this nearly happened. Thank heavens it didn't happen. Thank heavens we defeated Hitler at the end, because it would have been horrendous. I was very fortunate to be rescued by Kindertransport, which was this wonderful rescue operation. When Kindertransport came, we were lucky to be picked. I found a guarantor in Glasgow. My parents took me to the station, put me on the train. The train was full of about 100-odd children, many of them 5, 6, and 7 years old, who had never left their mom and dad before. The children were not only crying, they were howling. It was really very, very difficult. After a few hours, we came to the Dutch frontier, and the Nazi guards left the train. And the minute they left the train, even the young children who had no idea what is happening, even that, it lifted the spirit. It was slightly different. We crossed the frontier into Holland. There were kind ladies there with hot chocolate and apples and sandwiches. which was absolutely fantastic. I had to leave my parents behind, but I was surrounded by younger children who found it too difficult. I could cope with it. I could not very well, but I could cope with it. At the age of 14, I went to work in a hotel. And having 6 months working in a hotel as a sous chef, yes, as an apprentice, learning things, that made me somehow stronger. And I faced things as they happened. And then we crossed the channel, never been across the sea before. We crossed the channel overnight, and next day we landed in Harwich in Essex and took a train to Liverpool Street Station. This card, on the back it tells you, leave to land granted at Harwich this day on condition that the holder does not enter any employment, paid or unpaid, whilst in the United Kingdom. 4th of May 1939. In Liverpool Street Station we sat, waited to be collected by whoever guaranteed for us. Or many children had no guarantors, they were then taken to a camp. So we just sat there. I mean, to sit there and wait to be collected by someone was quite traumatic. Eventually, I was taken to a hostel, stayed overnight with other 3 children, and we came next day, we came to Euston Station, and we went by a Royal Scot to Glasgow. Now, that was an experience itself. I had traveled in Germany before, on wooden seats by rail, but the Royal Scot was a fabulous train, upholstered compartments. We were taken, the 3 of us were taken to the dining room. I mean, 1938, waiters with white cotton cloths serving out of silver pots hot chocolate and tea or coffee and sandwiches. It was like paradise. It was a different kind of experience. We were made welcome, we were made very welcome, and it was a happy experience to be in a train like that and to be treated by kind human beings. I didn't know much about Scotland. I knew it was far north, but I soon learned. Arriving in Glasgow at Central Station on platform 1, I will never forget that. I mean, you're 15 and a half, 16 years old. I was collected by my guarantor, Mrs. Harwich, who was kind enough to take me in as a son. May I just say that Mrs. Harwich herself was an incomer from the Baltic states, a refugee herself who came in the late 1890s to come to Glasgow and settle down. So to be a refugee, to create a home for another refugee, I think is quite a remarkable situation. When in Germany, when you have a cup of tea, we used to sit at a table. In Britain, you sit in the lounge and you're given a cup of tea. Now, let me explain to you. So you're given a cup of tea, you hold the cup of tea, and then they give you a plate. And you don't know how to hold that. And then they come around with a sandwich or a cake. Would you like one? And you say, no, thank you, because you have no idea what to do. Eventually, you learn how to do that. So this is, I mean, I will never forget that. You know, I'm quite hungry. I would like a sandwich or a biscuit, but I've got a cup in one hand and a plate in the other. How can I take anything? It leaves an impression on you, but you soon learn. You have to face things as they come. I come here to a strange house. I had a lovely room, different kind of food, different kind of language. My English wasn't all that good. Within a week, I was sent to Queen's Park School, which was another experience. I was the only foreign boy in that school. But other kids were very friendly to me. Nobody called me a dirty Jew or a dirty German. I was just accepted as a young boy. And to feel accepted, to feel this kind of friendship was very, very important. Then, of course, war broke out and we were evacuated to Perthshire. I lived on a farm, which was all new to me, all very exciting. I'd never been on a farm before. And then we moved to Rossi House, Forgan-Denny, a sort of boarding school. I had a good headmaster who looked after me. I was the only foreign boy in the school, Balhousie Boys' School, Perth. So that went very well. We studied Shakespeare. Now, I'd never heard of Shakespeare before, absolutely nothing to me. We did Macbeth. Now, this absolutely captured me. I'm in Scotland and we talk about the story of Macbeth, this ancient king. Out, out, brief candle, life is but a shadow that stuts and frets across the stage. So I mean, it made such an impression on me, Macbeth, and I've seen the play and the opera many times since I live here, yes? Every time there's a Macbeth, I go and see it. It's a fabulous story, a very bloody story, but well told. Going to school by bicycle from where we stayed into Perth. War had broken out and the army blocked the roads. And when we came to the blockage, a soldier, we were stopped, show us your certificate. Well, I have a little certificate, it says Henry Wuga, nationality German. The poor soldier nearly wet his pants. He sent for the sergeant, he sent for the officer, let the boy go to school. One of those incidents that, you know, that's how it happened. It's funny. I stayed at that school for quite a few months, and then I was sent back to Glasgow because I became 16 and I became an enemy alien and I had to return to Glasgow. Once the war breaks out, there's no communication of any kind. The only communication are Red Cross letters. You're given a form from the Red Cross. You can put on 25 words. You give it back to the Red Cross, they send it to your parents, and your parents put 25 words on, and they come back. That might take 6 to 9 months. So for half the year, you don't know, are they alive, are they well? But that's wartime, that's how it is. There's nothing we could do about that. I miss you very much, I trust you're well. I'm doing fine, I'm learning the language, love Henry, well. That's all you can say. I had an uncle in Brussels, and when war broke out, I had no communication with my parents. I sent a letter from Glasgow to Brussels, to Nuremberg, Nuremberg, Brussels, Glasgow. This happened a few times. There was censorship. The mail was opened. I was arrested. I was taken to the High Court in Edinburgh at the age of 16, and within half an hour, I became from a friendly enemy alien, I became a dangerous enemy alien corresponding with the enemy. I was shocked, I was absolutely shocked. I've given 1 hour to pack a case. The police were going to take me away. I didn't know where they would take me. So what could I pack? A little bag with a pyjama, another shirt, a pullover, and hopefully this would suffice, and some wash kit, toothbrush or something like that. A phone call to Mrs. Harwich, and then I was taken to the police station. And being Scotland, being a civilized country, the sergeant, oh, can't it take him? He's under 17, he can't put him in a cell. So they had no idea what to do with me. There was a problem. Eventually, they sent me to Maryhill Barracks. I was there for a fortnight in an underground shelter. I came to Edinburgh to Donaldson School, which became an internment camp, and I was the only Jewish boy with 20 German sailors who called me a dirty Jew. It wasn't very nice, but all of a sudden, a week later, the commandant said, is anybody here that can cook? I put up my hand, I can cook. I was quite confident of myself. And I was in charge of preparing a meal for 170 people, all German and Austrian Jewish refugees who arrived the next day. They were all, when Churchill in cabinet, he banged the table and he said, collar the lot. And this is when internment started. I went from camp to camp. Then we were sent to the Isle of Man. I was 10 months interned, which was, again, for a 16-year-old boy, was quite unbelievable, because I was under the age of internment. To me, it was like an education. I was surrounded by grown people, educated people, university professors and doctors. It was like a university to me. I learned a lot in the internment camp. While I was in the Isle of Man, I got a new roommate who turned out to be an MI5 agent. They really suspected that my letters to Brussels contained things, and I became a dangerous enemy alien. After 10 months, I was released. Why was I released? Because I was under the age of internment. I should never have been interned. I was under 18. After 5 years, I became a naturalized British citizen. I became a British agent, and I'm proud of that. Those refugees that, like our crowd, we have now been established here for many, many years, and we have contributed very well to the country, both commercially, physically, and in education. And I hope that new incomers will also settle down and will get a chance to grow here and feel happy here and contribute something to Scotland. It's too much. I mean, it's too much to take in. But here we go.
Full life lived by the time you're 17.
I know. I mean, and remember, at this stage, I was still 16 and a half years old. Amazing. And I'm very fortunate I can remember it. I mean, 1937, I went to the opera in Nuremberg, the Master Singers of Nuremberg, this famous opera. We were not allowed to go as Jews. How I got a ticket, I do not know. My parents said, you can't go, you'll be beaten to death. I managed to get a ticket. I went to this opera. It lasted 5.5 hours. I sat up in the gods. Nobody recognized me as a Jewish boy. How I got there, I don't know, but this has stayed with me ever since. I knew nothing about Wagner or anti-Semitism. All I knew that in that opera there was a poet and a shoemaker by the name of Hans Sachs. And our synagogue was on the Hans Sachs Platz. So, I mean, this man existed 400 years ago. And this was to honor his 400th birthday or whatever. And I said to myself, this is exciting. I want to be there. And I was there. And I still have the little libretto I had with me. And at the age of 14, so don't ask me how I managed, but I did. And I enjoyed it. And this opera has remained with me ever since. And of course, people say, how can you go to a Wagner opera, this anti-Semite? But here we go. Music is music as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I've said enough.